Welcome back to Serenity Speaks, Conversations on Wellness, where we explore ways to nurture the mind, body and soul. I'm Cleo, your host, and I'm so thrilled you've joined me for another insightful conversation. Today's episode is especially meaningful as we approach the festive season, a time of joy for most, but also a period that can bring added pressures and emotional challenges. To help us navigate this topic, I'm joined by an incredible guest, Sheena Chauda, a BACP accredited counsellor and BABCP accredited CBT therapist with over 18 years of experience in the field. Together, we'll delve into Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, or CBT, what it is, how it works, and why it's such a powerful tool for improving mental well-being. We'll also discuss the unique pressures that the festive season can place on our mental health and share practical, compassionate tips for making it through this time of year with greater ease and balance. So whether you're tuning in while decorating your home, shopping for gifts, or simply taking a moment for yourself, this episode is for you.
I'm a BACP accredited psychotherapist, so that's the British Association of Counselling Psychotherapy, and also a BABCP accredited CBT therapist, so Cognitive Behavioural Therapist, and I'm also an EMDR therapist. So I've been practicing in the mental health field for around 17 years now.
Superb. So I know straight away for myself, you're going to have to break those things down for me. Like, obviously there's a lot of abbreviations, but just a little description of each area that you kind of specialise in and that you have expertise in would be great.
Sure, not a problem. So in terms of counselling, so with the BACP is the governing body for counsellors and psychotherapists, so hence a BACP accreditation. So I guess in terms of counselling, it's about talking about kind of, the difficulties that somebody might be experiencing, for them to have that space to kind of talk about things, and explore their emotions. It's a supportive space for them to be able to do that. And I guess in terms of CBT, the cognitive behavioural therapy, that's kind of looking at what is somebody struggling with now, what are the difficulties that they're experiencing at the moment and the symptoms that they might be experiencing. So they're both kind of quite different in terms of approaches, but there are some similarities as well between the two.
Okay. So with the cognitive behavioural therapy, so I do like a sleep course as well. I know you do some kind of sleep coaching, and is that more to do with resetting behaviours?
So I guess we could think about it as being sort of like, so your cognitions are your thoughts. It's just another word for thoughts is cognitions. Then you've got your behaviour, and CBT kind of works with addressing both. So it's really important to kind of think about both of those things, and it's a very collaborative form of therapy. So it's not about the therapist being the expert.
Oh, okay.
It's about working in collaboration with the person. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? And it particularly works with symptoms that might be problematic now and interfering in kind of like day-to-day life. And it looks at, how we can kind of challenge some of those unhelpful thinking patterns and behaviours that we might have, and looks at, okay, when you think in that way about something, is it helping you to move forward? So it really examines that kind of, thinking process and behaviours that we have that may impact on various mental health difficulties.
Makes sense. So something that came to mind then, would that be beneficial for things like if you're a smoker and you want to give up, Would that be more?
Yeah, so you look at the kind of behavior around that. There's lots of like stop smoking kind of campaigns and things that are out there. So a lot of that is based on kind of behavior as one and thoughts. Think about it. I guess in terms of like CBT, there's a really good evidence base, and it's something that is very widely used in the NHS and in private practice for therapists as well. And it's been proven to kind of treat a number of mental health difficulties, such as whether it be depression, anxiety disorders, like OCD, generalized anxiety disorder. And it's kind of like regulated by the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence. Nice, yeah. Absolutely. And NICE kind of regularly reviews the evidence, for various difficulties and then issues guidance, So CBT is one of those, and it can work. It doesn't profess to work with everything, because in terms of therapy, it's going to be so unique for that person and their needs as to what we look at in terms of support for them.
Yeah, and I suppose so. It could be something like that. A person might need CBT, but also there are other aspects that they can join to help the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so for example, my background is integrative counselling, which kind of combines the different theories. So we might look at, if I'm kind of counselling somebody, moving away from just the CBT approach, I might be looking at, okay, what's the difficulty that you're having? How are we going to integrate kind of different approaches to support you with that? Because people don't fit into boxes.
And that's it. And it could be something different 10 years ago to where you are now. And you grow, adapt.
Hugely. I mean, the therapy world, the world has changed, hasn't it? The difficulties that people have changed. There's a lot more awareness now about mental health. And with that, it brings a whole new set of, okay, we need to kind of do more work and more understanding on this.
Absolutely. Just so here we go, sidetrack. But just when you said that, one of the things that always sticks in my mind is COVID and how we were before COVID. And I think that there's still a growing awareness of how well-being that was definitely going on. But do you feel like because of COVID, there's been an increase of people suffering in silence and not wanting to talk, but then so there's an increase then of care information that's out there as well?
Absolutely. I mean, that period of kind of 2 years or so was so tough for people, wasn't it? There was so much loss, there was so much grief, there was so much what do we do, uncertainty, all of that. And kind of within that, it brought a whole new plethora of difficulties that people are struggling with. We know that rates of like psychosis went up. We know that suicidal ideation went up. We know that domestic abuse went up. All of those things were amplified. And I guess now, I think, mental health difficulties are something that people have always experienced, always struggled with. But it certainly feels now, I do see a difference from, say, 17, 18 years ago to now, with people coming forward and actually saying, well, I do need the help and it's okay for me to ask for that. It's just validating. It's okay for you to feel like this and for you to think that because you are a human being. And as human beings, we struggle.
It's not happening. Absolutely. I think for me as well, realising talk about it, more awareness there is. It's kind of I won't say soothing, but it's this idea that I'm not the only person going through that. I think that helps.
Definitely. It's like that word abnormal, isn't it? We're even normal. How many times do we hear that? Don't we? I often, people that I work with, my clients will say, I just want to be normal. What does that mean? Because I don't know what normal is.
What's it supposed to be that you're happy and okay all the time?
Absolutely. Like what you said about kind of like, your lived experiences, your environment, the dynamics that you've had within the family, caregivers, all of that is going to play a huge role, isn't it, in how we kind of perceive our own mental health, or how we think mental health should be.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Someone as well, just saying this again, somebody said, I haven't got mental health. Why is everyone talking?
Yeah.
I was always like, well, it's not, you have got mental health, it's whether it's good or bad, or not necessarily good or bad, but it's like, are you fit and healthy physically? So get regular exercise, walks, fresh air. So you've got physical health. It's just how good or bad that is, and how do you feel because of that? So it's the same with mental health, isn't it?
Definitely. It's like the impact, isn't it? Like, say, for example, you know, you're in the kitchen, you're doing cooking, and you have cut yourself really badly, and you're bleeding a lot. You're going to get medical help, aren't you? You're not going to just let yourself bleed out. Well, I would hope not. You know, you're going to get help, you know. And it's the same with our kind of mental health, is that, you know, as human beings, we will struggle, and we'll have those struggles in life, but it's how do we deal with them? You know, is it okay for us to talk to people and say, I need the support? Because actually that is strength and courage, isn't it? It's not a weakness, how sometimes people still perceive it as being a weakness if we struggle with our mental health.
No, like you're not able to cope. Again, I think it's as we evolve, I think that's definitely something from the 70s and before, maybe the 80s and before.
Yeah.
It's like to evolve. You've just got to get on with it. You have to just sit tight and which is true in a certain way. We do have to, you know, just move forward. You don't necessarily have to move forwards and not talk about how you're feeling, and we just put
true. That is true, definitely. And perhaps, I guess, part of what you're saying there is a generational thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, which is so important. You know, just I guess generations previous would probably have that, right, I just need to get on with it, even if they were struggling. And I guess I do see that sometimes in my clients that are older adults, is that I need to make sure I'm kind of sometimes working a bit harder to really build up that relationship with them. Because I might get a lot of questions like, is this okay? Like, why am I getting these physical symptoms? Why is this happening to me? You know, so a lot more like psychoeducation, like understanding of that is perhaps needed as well.
Even the idea or the concept of that, what's going on mentally and emotionally can affect you physically,
definitely,
is a whole new idea for people as well.
Absolutely. Like, for example, say in CBT, you know, we what we do is we formulate. So it's almost like, say if you've got you know, some issues with your stomach, for example, and you're getting like persistent stomach pains, you're going to go to see your GP, I hope, and, you know, try and find out what's going on. And your GP is going to assess those symptoms and look at, okay, when did it start? What triggers it? Try and get a bit of an understanding. Then they might formulate that and look at, okay, you know, what are the maintaining factors? What's keeping it going? That sort of thing. Then they might look at the treatment. And CBT is like that. We break it down into kind of like 3 stages. So we'll have the assessment. We get a really, really good understanding of the background, historical experiences, you know, early life experiences. What's going on now? What do we then need to do to help you with the symptoms?
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Even the fact that you mentioned the stomach issues, because I think one of the things that's increased as well is the we didn't call it lactose intolerance back in the day.
Yeah.
I knew there was an issue there. My mum took me to the doctor, gave me, you know, a prescription. And then I just recognised over the last, I don't know, 20, 25 years, this has become a real thing. I mean, it wasn't before. There was one type of milk, you sterilised, was it pasteurised?
Yeah,
There was no milk, so milk
completely.
it wasn't mainstream.
That's so true, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's so true. You're right. A lot of these things are things that have developed now, aren't they?
Because we're realising this.
Completely. And I think, you know, there is like, actually, with my dissertation that I did in my undergrad was on the gut and the brain.
Yeah, the connection. I've
Yeah,
been hearing a lot about that.
absolutely. And, you know, I mean, that was ages ago, obviously, I did that. But I wonder what the research is like now, because I know that a lot of people come in with like these gastro difficulties that they're experiencing. You know, and there'll be kind of tests that are being done to see what's going on, you know, and nothing's shown. And there is this link between your brain and your gut.
Yeah. It's IBS as well. So
Absolutely.
and for years I just you got on with things, you try to eat the right food.
Yeah.
It's always the food that you love that you're not supposed to have.
That's
that
it.
you've got to kind of avoid. And then I think it was so recent, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I read this about that IBS isn't always to do with your diet. It is to do with you know, psychological
Absolutely.
traumas that may have happened that you're not dealing with. And like I said, yeah, this
Completely.
good brain
Definitely.
connection.
Yeah, because you'll find, won't you, that I mean, I'll notice sometimes in people that I'm working with, if I'm working with kind of gastro issues as well. Obviously, as a therapist, I'm not a medic.
Yeah.
You know, I make sure that that person is seeing a medic if they need to for medical issues, you know, but we will look at and understand, okay, is there some crossover between the times that you might be feeling anxious and what's going on, what the triggers, you know, so trying to kind of understand that a little bit as well. And people will often say, yeah, I notice that when I'm getting a bit more stressed or anxious that I need to go to the toilet more to empty my bowels and bladder.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing, isn't it? Being nervous. Go to the toilet or keep going to the toilet.
Yeah,
It's a build up of nerves.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's kind of because of the physiological things that happen in our body when we become anxious or panicky, is that each bodily symptom serves a purpose. And it goes back to kind of caveman times where they'd be going out and they'd be looking for food, you know, and they've come across this threat, which is, say, the bear, and it's that fight, flight, or freeze response. So each kind of physical symptom, like say, for example, when your heart rate is increasing, your heart is trying to work harder and faster to pump blood around to major organs because they need it. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Whereas people become afraid of it. My heart rate is increasing. What's going on?
I'm scared.
Absolutely.
Until it's explained.
Yeah.
I'm going to panic, I suppose.
Yeah.
And probably off to A&E. I can imagine.
You know, the amount of kind of, again, that's a really valid point you raised there. You know, lots of calls to ambulances, and actually, you know, of course we've got to get something checked out
Yeah.
if we are not sure, or if we have an underlying physical health difficulty. But the amount of calls to ambulances, you know,
There's a show on TV about that, isn't
oh,
there?
is there? I don't know.
Well, this was probably a year or so ago. I saw that where the great work of the paramedics, and it shows the calls that they go to.
Right.
And sometimes it is like a panic, you know, anxious thing they call them, and they're fantastic. They come and calm people down, let them know, and then they go. But like you say, it's that pressure on the service.
Absolutely.
All aware selves and how we feel and what things trigger us.
Completely. And educating ourselves on that. It's again like if we had a medical problem, say if someone's got diabetes, for example, you know, they're going to need to understand, what is this? How is it going to impact on my life? Is there something different I need to be doing now that I've got this diagnosis? You know, do I need to watch my sugar more? Do I need to watch my carbs more? It's the same with, you know, our mental health, isn't it? Is if we learn that we have these symptoms of anxiety, for example, we need to understand it.
Yeah, why it's happening.
Yeah.
Maybe how to not panic or how to find calm, how to help ourselves.
Yeah, manage it, definitely.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Sorry, I know I've totally gone off.
No, that's great. Okay,
Yeah.
so if we kind of go with CBT, we'd be wanting to kind of understand. Firstly, I want to get a really good understanding of the history as well.
Yeah.
Has anything like this happened before? You know, is it a standalone thing? You know, get a really good assessment. You know, any early life experiences, any sort of like beliefs they might have about themselves, the world, how they see others, which in CBT is what we call kind of like the 3 levels of thinking. So we have our core beliefs, which are our beliefs that have been there for a really long time, very, very rigid, often come out of early life experiences, later life experiences. Then we'll have kind of like our, let's say, the rules for living, so that I should, or I shouldn't do this, or I must do this. So they're kind of like, you know, they're like governing what we do sometimes. Then we have our negative automatic thoughts. So if we kind of think about, say, that experience, we'd be wanting to understand, okay, how's this person viewing themselves, the world, and all of that as a result of their experiences. You know, look at all the symptoms that kind of they're experiencing, any triggers for any flashbacks or nightmares that might be there, like you said about the dark.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of, is that a flashback? You know, what's happening? So we kind of want to understand that. And then we'd kind of think about, right, what do we need to do? So again, that's going to depend on the goal of the person, because everyone's formulation, so if we're thinking about it in a CBT point of view, is going to be so different.
Of what they want the outcome to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, they might say, okay, I don't feel comfortable walking in the dark at all now. It's impacting on my life because I need to walk to work sometimes. So a goal might be, I need to be able to walk to work. To do that, if we're having flashbacks, do we need to work on those flashbacks? So essentially, if we say CBT, MDR, you know, they're both different approaches. They are both very different approaches, but essentially what we are doing in both of those approaches is processing memories. How I kind of explain it, how I explained it to somebody the other day, was trying to put those memories in the part of the brain that they need to go in, because they're stuck right now.
Yeah.
You know, so like if you think about, like, say, a wound, say if you have cut yourself, your body has a natural ability to heal, doesn't it? Our wounds heal, don't they? Our brains do the same thing. Our brains are really powerful like that. They have the ability to heal. But saying that, sometimes memories get stuck.
Experience. As soon as you said that, I thought, gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And we need to process it. And I guess trauma is just it's a whole new world, isn't it? There's so much with trauma, and sometimes with kind of PTSD kind of treatment, people will say, I'm really scared to talk about this flashback or this nightmare. I generally tend to say to people, you know, and the therapist that I supervise as well, if you've got a client like this, they're already doing it. They're already scared. Yeah.
They're already reliving it.
Completely.
You might as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. What have we got to lose?
Because you're already in that place.
Yeah.
And would you say then, like, on the one hand, obviously, I would definitely have had bereavement counselling, which was amazing, you know, recommend it every time. But say if there's somebody at home who can recognise some of these things that they may be feeling a certain way, what would you say is the first step within themselves? Like, obviously, go and speak to somebody. But if they're sitting there right now, what are the things that they could think about?
if someone's struggling with like a particular mental health difficulty or
Yeah, like something like PTSD. I
yeah.
suppose like domestic abuse, but I suppose it could be anything. Yeah, some bullying,
Yeah.
in childhood.
Sure. Like sort of like steps of how we would think about that is, firstly, like what you said earlier was really important. Is sometimes when we talk about things, we realize we're not on our own,
Yeah.
and that it's okay to say, I am struggling with this and I need some support. Talking to someone, talking to anyone, can be the first step. If you can't talk to people that are close to you, pick up the phone and talk to Samaritans. Yeah. Or, there's so many different resources and things out there now. A huge amount of resources. Is be open about it. We can only do something about something if we talk about it, can't we?
First step.
Yeah, a huge step, and that's probably the step that is the most courageous step that we can take.
The start, the first step.
Definitely.
Yeah, makes sense, because I suppose, and they say that there's a saying, isn't there? A trouble shared is a trouble halved.
Yeah,
And I say that, yeah,
absolutely.
it's all like, yeah.
Definitely.
Because sometimes you just feel like, sometimes talking about something airs it, and you kind of come to your own solution or conclusion.
And I guess in essence, counselling is a bit like that. That's where the counselling approach is about, because we're not looking for a cure, we're not looking for a fix. We can't fix us. We're human beings. We're not fixable, but how can we learn maybe strategies if need be to manage things better, to feel better in ourselves? And I guess just in counselling, having that space to talk things through. Yeah, there may not be a solution to the difficulty because it might be a really real kind of problem right now that we can't do anything about. Yeah. But might it be that that person just needs to be heard, listened to?
Right, yeah. So sometimes there's that conversation I've had so many times with somebody, well, with people, especially in the workplace.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you go in the morning, you say, "Oh, how are you? I'm fine."
Yeah.
And then as soon as somebody, because I'm probably guilty of this, someone says, "How are you?" and I'll start telling them, actually, I'm not well because this happened and this happened. And you can kind of see people's faces glaze over. Wasn't expecting you to answer. I thought you were just going to say you're fine and we were going to move on.
That's it, isn't it? It's that thing though, isn't it? What does fine mean?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Is it something that we just say because we don't want to burden someone, or we don't want someone to worry about what we're feeling? But maybe actually it's okay to say, no, I'm actually not okay. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I remember it happened. So after a while, I became the person to say, "Oh yeah, I'm fine," and actually, I'm thinking, well, a really difficult day. I've had a difficult night, and yeah.
And that's interesting in itself, isn't it? Because sometimes people can look at you and think you're this really, really happy, smiley, positive person that never gets upset, walks around, like this sunbeam. But actually, under that, they might be really struggling. And when they open up, people might think, wow, that person normally looks really happy. They normally look like they're, really positive and everything, but they're struggling too. Maybe it's okay for me to talk as well about how I feel.
Exactly.
So I think it can be inspirational to people sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's true as well, because it is the idea that somebody looks like they've got it all together, and you see the vulnerable side, or let your vulnerable side be shown.
Yeah,
that does make you feel like, oh, it's okay then.
Definitely, is to allow yourself to. It's okay to not mask sometimes. Definitely. 3 levels of thinking. Yeah.
Say it again. I'm
3
not-
levels of thinking. So we have our core beliefs, which are about ourselves, others, and how we see the world. They're very rigid. They've been there for a very long time often. Then we have our rules for living. So that's like our second level of thinking. So that's kind of like that I should or I must, which comes out of a core belief. You know, core beliefs develop because of our, as a result of like our early life experiences, later life experiences as well. Then we have a negative automatic thoughts, which is the third level of thinking.
So
Yeah.
so the third level
Yeah.
of thinking, negative thoughts,
Yeah.
is a standard thing across, that's
Oh,
how we
100%. Absolutely. We all have them, don't we?
Yeah, but I just
Yeah.
think, you kind of think that again, maybe it's that idea of one having these negative thoughts. Sometimes we're not aware that we're doing it, but when we're doing it, it's been negative. The idea that that's an actual, thing. if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah, because we have, as human beings, we're born with threat-based brains, aren't we? So our brains are designed to pick up on threats in the environment, which keeps us safe, and to a degree it keeps us safe, doesn't it? Of course. And we will all have negative automatic thoughts. We can't stop those coming into our minds because that's just the way that our brains work. But it's how we respond to them that is a difficulty. So I don't know, say if you're walking down the street and you see someone on the other side of the road that you know, so you know that person well, but they look at you and then they just don't say anything, they just look down, they carry on walking. What might you think?
I'm like, oh, they're in a bad mood.
Yeah.
What did I do?
What have I done?
Yeah, I'll probably start thinking about the last time I saw them.
Yeah.
Did I say anything that was offensive?
Completely.
Immediately think I've done something wrong.
That's it, we personalise it. How do we know they've not just had a phone call that they've struggled with, or they found it really hard to get out of bed that morning, or they're upset and they want to hide away? We'll think of, right, okay, it's the worst thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we all have them, it's natural.
That's really interesting because, like you say, these are the things that can turn into, miscommunication, people not wanting to talk anymore without a conversation, not understanding what somebody might be going through.
Definitely, those assumptions that we make, and they're assumptions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Without saying anything.
Yeah.
Like having that, are you okay? It's just that, isn't it?
Completely. And sometimes when we dig a little bit deeper, they're like, no, maybe they're not okay.
And it's not to do with you, not with you, it's not like that.
Completely.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's really, it kind of opens your mind to just thinking about how you live your daily life.
Absolutely.
Like you say. There's that other saying they say, never assume because it makes an ass out of you and me.
Totally, isn't it? That saying, yeah, that is so true.
Don't assume, find out, get the real facts, or have a conversation.
Completely. And even if we have assumed, okay, like we can still go back and check it out. We haven't missed an opportunity to check that out with someone, have we? We can always go back to something and talk about it. You're right, it's just about that communication, because at times we're all not great at that, are we?
Yeah, because I always say, it's that thing of sometimes you might not have been in touch with somebody for a long time, and they come on your mind, or they come into your mind, and you think, oh, I should phone them, and then you kind of brush away, no, life is busy and stuff, and sometimes I think those things happen for a reason. It's like checking in on somebody. It doesn't have to be that there's a problem, but it's just having those conversations.
Definitely, because there can be a lot of estrangement as well without communication, can't there? Relationships can, days will go by and you won't talk to somebody, or whatever it might be.
It's true. And so, moving on to the time of year that we're at now, I think I always remember my mum kind of saying, oh, it's so stressful. And then she got to a point where she was like, oh, we'll make sure we have a nice dinner. It's going to be nice and we'll watch some movies, we'll be fine. I don't have to worry about how much money I'm spending and rushing around. And, we put ourselves into such tremendous stress.
Definitely.
So I was thinking about, how we manage the holiday stress. And again, it is something that we on themselves, isn't
Of
it?
course it is, isn't it? And of course there is a lot of media influence around that as well. You know, see all the adverts around Christmas, and you know, you go into the supermarkets and all the new snacks that are there, they aren't there. And, you know, people thinking, I need to get that, I need to buy that, I need to do this. A lot of that pressure is created, isn't it?
Yeah.
By ourselves, our comparisons to others, and also what we see.
Yeah. So I mean, I know that I worked at times in retail,
Yeah.
and there is definitely psychological aspect to what they so number one, the advertisements that we see, and then when you go into the shops, how things are placed, where things are put.
Definitely.
So that kind of leaks into us, and we don't even realise that's actually happening.
Yeah.
You know, I always remember this was some years ago. Do you remember Wonder Bra? This is just
Gosh.
is that like in the 90s?
Yeah.
And there was such a huge campaign.
Yeah.
So there was Wonder Bra, and L'Oreal had this lipstick that came out, and it looked so lovely. It was all glittery, and it looked glossy, glittery. It was the most amazing.
Yeah.
I remember I kept seeing these advertisements. I remember the one I thought, I'm going to go and get lipstick.
Yeah.
And I went into town, and I got both. Got home.
Yeah.
What a disappointment! Both
Really?
long.
Wow.
Wonder Bra it was a crossback one.
Yeah.
And it didn't really give the support as I expected it to. And the lipstick was matte, not glossy.
Right.
I've really got sold, and you don't
Yeah.
see yourself as somebody who could be captured by the advertising.
Yeah.
But we are. It's almost like it's
So true, isn't it? It's like now with like TikTok and Instagram reels and everything, this new lipstick. And it's funny you say that, because I saw this lipstick. It was rum and raisin, and I'm pretty sure it was like, I don't know if you remember Heather Shimmer and Coffee Shimmer. Yeah. So Shimmer and Coffee Shimmer, we used to wear it at school all the time. Not that we were allowed to wear makeup at school, but of course I did. Yeah.
oh my god!
I mean, they had downstairs for me, right, in at school, nail varnish remover bottle and nail varnish remover pads for me to take my nail varnish off because I refused. So I always used to get sent downstairs to take off my nail varnish.
Naughty.
So yeah, absolutely. You know, we'll see. I was going off track there, but
when you said Heather Shimmer, I was like, oh my god!
Well, what beautiful colour it was, isn't it? But this rum and raisin was like that, and I bought the rum and raisin. I ordered it, came, and then I tried it, and I thought, this is just like more like a lip gloss. It's not even like a lipstick, you know. It was being made out to be this really, really nice colour. I was like, no.
Yeah, isn't it really? When you realise I've been hacked now.
Well, that's it. Just going crazy over getting it, and I was thinking, I should try it. It's like Black Friday.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Isn't that crazy? Like, it's one day in America.
Yes.
It's something quite new here, isn't it? And it's turned into the whole month.
It's turned into people fighting over stuff in supermarkets and shops.
Over stuff that we don't actually need, but because of the hype and the build up around what's supposed to be a bargain.
It's like the toilet roll pandemic during COVID.
Yeah, that wasn't that. And that was really strange. Like, why? It looks like a Chinese whisper where it gets started at one point and it goes round and round, turns into something completely.
Absolutely. Or let's go and buy toilet roll because there's a pandemic. I mean, okay. And pasta.
Yeah, the food feels a bit more important.
But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how we are, and we all are influenced by social media to a degree, aren't we, and advertisements and everything, and having this, like, you know, it's got to be like this. I mean, supermarkets, before we, you know, Christmas Eve and the build-up, how much food do we waste as well?
It's really, really ridiculous.
And I mean, the prices of things have gone up, you know. If you think about kind of people are struggling to buy food, they're struggling to eat. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, and food banks are struggling to match that demand as well, aren't they? You know, and if you think about kind of like that period of time where really for one day the shops are shut and we're buying loads of food, aren't we?
I was saying this the other day that when I was growing up, and maybe you remember that actually it was like a mini lockdown. Nothing was open. Nothing at all was open. Didn't have, I don't know, your stuffing or your milk.
Yeah,
that was it.
that's true. It's interesting. Mum and Dad used to say that to me. They said, you know, there was a time like that where even on Sundays shops would be shut.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that sounds strange now.
yeah,
Imagine everything being closed on a Sunday.
absolutely.
People wouldn't cope.
No, so there's that huge pressure that we put on ourselves as well.
And do you think there is, so let's say, a way to combat that pressure? Like if you're feeling under pressure now, so month of December, the run up to, a lot of the time it's supposed to be, you know, on telly, again, advertisements, and you've got this picture of what family's supposed to be, what festive season is supposed to be, and how you expect, you know, cooking dinner but looking really glamorous and lovely. You feel distressed and everything's all over the place, and you're worried because you don't want to ruin people's Christmas dinner and just things like that.
Yeah, so almost like the family kind of dynamics in Christmas. Yeah, so I guess, you know, if we're thinking about that, like, it's like boundaries, isn't it? And it's like maybe considering what your needs, your limitations, and your expectations might be as well. Because sometimes we struggle to maybe set boundaries anyway, and then towards that time of year, maybe we struggle even more because of the expectation and the pressure. So I guess it's okay to say that, oh, I can't do that, but I can do that. You know, and be assertive and kind to yourself as well about it. Because sometimes guilt can stop people setting healthy boundaries.
And what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah. You know, I need to make 3 different types of meat, or, you know, all of these different things, and do we need to do all that? Are we doing it because we feel we have to do it, or are we doing it because we want to do it? They're both kind of different things, aren't they?
So true, so true. And I suppose like it's trying to please everybody, isn't it? It's kind of, if you're the person hosting Christmas, and not like hosting, you know, people might come in and give a hand.
Yeah.
You still feel like everything's down to you, and
Definitely.
how people spend their time. Is it good? Does it enjoy themselves? Or so that in itself can put a lot of pressure on people.
Absolutely. It's like that kind of, it's like an inflated sense of responsibility, isn't it? It's that I need to be the one to do all of these things, but actually, is it okay to just ask for the help? Like, you know, ask for that support if you need it. Ask other family members to help out. You know, don't do too much if you don't need to do it. Because is it about the quality of time that you might have with the people around you, you know, or the food that you're enjoying, rather than having 10 different things on your plate?
When there's no, in a way, it's almost like the more choice you're given, the more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as human beings like that, we become sometimes a bit more selfish when we have more choices, don't we?
Absolutely.
You know,
You're confused.
completely. And we just, it's difficult to decide what we want to do. And there's so many kind of different things that factor as well, is again, like, you know, seeing that comparison to other families, or you know, what Christmas should look like, but really, what should it look like? It's going to be different for
everybody,
isn't it?
And what's preferences, even that the whole thing about keeping with the Joneses. So you know, the Christmas tree in the window opposite. Well, my gosh, they've got new lights, and me personally, I've got the same Christmas tree for so many years. the lights blow, then we will replace them. But in general, it's the same tree, and it's fine. But
Yeah,
every year I think, oh, those baubles are lovely.
yeah,
Might buy one, but because there's no room left on the tree
that's
to
it.
continue to. So yeah, some
Yeah.
people do that by. I don't know, what do you think? So if there's a cause for it, or what is their need? Do you think it's something where people think they've got to be covering everything?
Yeah, perhaps there's that, isn't there? Is I need to do all of these things and not really thinking about why they might be doing it. Is it because they really enjoy it, or is it because they feel they have to do it? Because they're having conversations with people around them who are, oh, well, you know, we've got this happening, or this is going on, or, you know, and then they may think, oh, well, I've got to do that now because,
Yeah, but otherwise I'm not giving everybody the best time of their life.
absolutely, or it's not enough. You know, people won't have a good time, like you said. Like, is it that important?
Yeah. It was something that my mum said, and obviously there is. I do love Christmas. I do
Yeah.
love the lights everywhere, music, the whole mood. But something I always remember my mum saying was, you know, it's one day. She always used to say about 4 o'clock on Christmas Day. Oh, well,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
all that build up, stress running around, and then you're sitting there, and the main thing was you were with your people you love, and you've had a nice meal.
Definitely. Yes.
Some people don't have those.
Completely. And how sad is that, isn't it? Like, I think one thing that is absolutely fantastic that happens in Birmingham is where the train station, don't they, for New Year, Christmas, they do that. They do the meal, don't they? Don't they, for homeless people? And I think that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing.
It is fantastic. And actually, wouldn't it be so nice if something like that was to happen in January as well? Because January is often a month where people become more, you know, your Christmas is over, you've still got the dark nights, it's still kind of like, you know, you're waking up, it's dark, you go to bed, it's dark. Something to kind of look forward to a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. That's true, actually. Because I think I was saying earlier that in January, a lot of people say they feel it's like all that lovely, like festive build up is done. They say there's that gap in between Boxing Day and New Year where everything just feels a bit.
That's it.
Slump.
Absolutely. And then also you think about kind of like Christmas time, if it is difficult for people, what we do see is, and I have seen this pattern as well over the years, is people coming into therapy more in January time.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
So you'd say that's a busy time.
yeah, definitely. You know, people are coming into therapy more. There's been difficult times over Christmas, or there's been this build up. There's, you know, these things that may have happened as well, and people are needing that support in the new year.
And is that because just overall, really, would you say it's a feeling of being really fed up and feeling quite low?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, like in those winter months, people struggle more with mental health generally, or symptoms are exacerbated because of like dark nights and cold, and you know, not getting enough kind of, you know, vitamin D and all of that we need. So completely. And then you also have the financial aspect, don't you? Because we know that over a Christmas period, people will sometimes take out extra loans. You know, they use their credit cards and they're not able to pay that back. They haven't thought about, if I go and, you know, spend £1,000 on my credit card, am I going to be able to pay this back? So they're then in debt. And that's adding to kind of like the environmental factors that contribute to mental health as well.
And so do you think that's something like, because I'm saying obviously it's not necessarily obvious, but you know, the idea that it's like one day, let's say somebody who's got children there, like say 3 children, got a list of things that they're wanting, and you want to make this their most, you know, amazing, perfect Christmas. So you get the credit card, you spend that money. Do you think there's a part of, so it's like knowing that that's not really going to be affordable, but doing it anyway, and then thinking that
Yeah.
something, do you think there's a part of people that switches that bit off?
Yeah,
Is that what's
definitely. Absolutely. And it's a need to please, isn't it? If I don't do this, I'm maybe not a good enough person, or I'm not, doing what I should be doing. But actually, how helpful in the long run is that going to be? Because if you're not kind of managing those finances as best as you can, it's just going to have and setting expectations as well.
Yeah, for next year.
Perhaps, yeah. There is that thing as well, isn't there? Setting expectations, and people sometimes forget that actually we can make gifts. We can make something nice for somebody, and actually a lot of love and care and affection goes into it when we create something and give it to somebody.
And that's supposed to be the essence, really, the thoughtfulness.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but it's the thought that counts, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what it's thought, and said being with family and being around, and then this idea that there's a measurement or an amount that you're supposed to spend, things that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't really kind of, we're not always present in that, are we? Because we're always thinking about, I need to get this, I need to do that. And we get caught up in those the shoulds, really. The rules.
Yeah, exactly.
That wraps up today's insightful conversation on cognitive behavioural therapy, its benefits, and how we can manage the pressures of the festive season with practical tips for maintaining our mental health. A huge thank you to Sheena for sharing such valuable expertise and wisdom. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps us to reach more people seeking wellness inspiration. Until next time, take care, stay mindful, and keep prioritising yourself. Bye for now.